I'm just going to go ahead and bring him in. Oh, see, he drank it too quickly. The beauty of these kinds of things was trying to get Abe while he was drinking on camera. Didn't quite work.
Well, you got to hydrate, man. I got to be ready for you guys. You're going to pound me with questions that make me sweat. I'm just trying to fill back up. That's all.
Yeah. So we wrapped up our high school season on Friday night, and Jason lost his mind, rightfully so, on a 100th minute free kick golazo, last kick of the match in a Classico up in Gainesville. And so we had that to lead into the weekend. And I know that going into the matchup with Atlanta United and Philly, Abe, I know that you weren't all that patently optimistic about the end result. But, I mean, like I said, this is why we call it Reaction Mondays. So anybody can come on with their reactions, overreact, underreact, have an on-par reaction. So now that you've had the post-game show, you put the post-game show to bed, you got to sleep on it. Now you're waking up first thing on Monday morning and you're taking questions from me and a cast of thousands. What sticks in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do still feel justified about my pregame thoughts and concerns going into the game. This was a Philly Union side that was very dangerous. Multiple players get involved in their attack, and we've seen Atlanta United really be able to take out a team's lead guy quite a few times this season. I didn't feel like that was going to be a way to attack it with Philly because there is no one individual lead guy. There is no Carlos Heel that you have to focus on, something like that. So I was concerned going in. You're down your two first-choice center backs, and then on the other side, what are you getting up top? I mean, you're throwing Daniel Rios and Tyler Wolff up there. Is that what we're expecting to be our goal scorers? And ultimately, it plays out to a point where you feel, when all is said and done, that you almost lost a 2-2 draw. And so, very pleased with the performance. I think it continues to answer questions, specifically Noah Cobb. I mean, I think I'm done not calling him our first choice center back. Whether he is or isn't is a different story. But in terms of quality, in terms of performance, there's simply no drop off for the teenager there. And so very pleased with his performance. We have another situation where a guy up top gets a goal on one of, if not his last touch of the game. And then it's unfortunate down the 73rd minute, a bad turnover, miscommunication, kind of gets Philly off and running for a heap of momentum over the next 10 to 15 minutes. But it is a point. Philly stays unbeaten, but in a situation where it's probably going to be a pretty close Eastern Conference down towards the end of this thing. Without a good chunk of your first team, you were able to play even and quite frankly, be the better team, despite what the scoreboard said for the majority of that game. I still think it says pretty good things of Atlanta United moving forward. We got to get Giakoumakis back. There's no doubt about that. And hopefully the center backs as well. But you have to feel pretty good now that you're removed from it. In the immediate wake, it really felt gutting. It felt like after Wiley's screamer that, I mean, God, look at this guy. He just scored a wonder goal. You're up 2 goals at home against one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Let's ride this thing out. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So it was a big letdown at the time. I've recovered from that. You kind of pair the end result with your pregame thoughts and expectations, and you kind of settle in the middle. But it was disappointing, obviously to give up 2 goals once you had the lead.
Since we believe in chivalry here on the show, Matty Cruz and the 1s and 2s for Abe Gordon. Go for it.
Okay, I feel like the comment section is actually going to freak out if we don't bring up the throw-in, sure, that whole crazy thing. That's been a big debate on Twitter with everything going on, and if it's reviewable, if it's not. We know it's not reviewable. What were your thoughts on the goal, seeing that as well, and I guess comparing that, back to the referees? I mean, we had this huge discussion at the beginning of the year with the refs coming in to get things going again, and now we got the pro refs back, and something like this happens. What is going through your mind? What goes forward now?
Well, a couple things go through my mind. Initially, my thought is, if it's an illegal throw-in, I don't think the assistant referee is going to catch it. I just think they're dealing with so much and there's so few illegal throw-ins in the world of professional soccer that I just don't think that they're really paying attention to where the feet are. It's probably more at the hands, and if it's one-handed, is their spin correctly, stuff like that. So I'm not really surprised that they didn't call it. I will say this. I've seen the still shots. I think it's a bad idea to try and judge in a sport moving as quickly as soccer, or really any sport does, from an individual still. If there were a series of stills frame by frame, I think you try and figure it out. To me, it looked like the heel was over, but I don't want to like get up on that hill based on an individual still photo of that. So just keep that in mind. I think the question is twofold. Obviously, does this become reviewable in the future? You have to wonder if that gets put up for consideration to be an additional duty of the VAR at some point. I'm not sure I agree with the reasoning that it's not reviewable at the moment. And then the other question is just the head referee. This gets magnified because of other decisions, other refusals to control the game earlier throughout. So, maybe you kind of were going to be able to write this off as something if he had had a better game throughout, but he simply didn't. And so now this highlights it from our perspective. And then quite honestly, on the offsides, that would have given Philly the lead. There's some questions there from the Philly perspective. They felt it was not offsides. And so, just not a good game all around by the officiating crew, but like we've heard before, I mean, you can't, one specific moment doesn't decide the game, and you can't leave it a situation where the referees are having that sort of an impact. I mean, look, if Mosquera doesn't slide that ball into no man's land, then it doesn't come into play. And so you only have yourself to blame for that to an extent. But yeah, it would have been nice if VAR could take another look at that and would have been able to address it. And if it was deemed illegal, overturn that. But knowing it wasn't, it's just so tough to judge from a still shot. Kind of grainy. It looked like there was green between his back heel and the white line, but who's to tell? Like I said, I think you're setting yourself up for a mistake if you judge any moving sport by an individual still.
Jarrett Smith for Abe Gordon on a Monday.
To be fair, that's what we do all the time, because I know of a lot of Philadelphia people who were posting stills of the offside at the third goal that was called back. Ironically, it's what we do. It's exhausting. As for this rest of this game, I know you talked about that moment of the bad back pass and kind of losing it. Up until then, I want to get your thoughts on this team's kind of chippiness. We saw it in in the Orlando game earlier this year. It feels like this team has the potential to have a very chippy and combative edge to be able to handle these games more so than they've had in the past.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about that, Jared, is I don't think that they bring it out of themselves. I think it requires an opponent for them to match, for them to meet that level. And they certainly will. They're not going to back down. And quite frankly, I think you look at your two wingbacks, like Caleb Wiley's not backing down. Neither is Brooks Lennon. Those guys are going to get into it. And we've seen that. And then Moyamba is just a madman throwing his body all over the place. So there's that too. I think if another team comes in with respect and plays the game the right way, then Atlanta United will show that as well. But if it starts to get unnecessarily physical, chippy, quite frankly, dirty, then they're going to. And the other aspect of that is it has to be called properly. I mean, certainly there were situations yesterday that rose to the level that they had to, but I mean, Tristan Moyamba getting a yellow card for a slide tackle in which he wins possession. When you don't call that, it kind of, or when you do call that, it kind of ramps things up further. And so the referee was kind of all over the place, which is unfortunate because it felt like he got off to a good start. It felt like Freeman had a good first 10 to 15 minutes, and then it just all fell apart when Philly started their non-sex tactics, and you go from there. You get to a Jose Martinez. It should have been a very clear second yellow leading to a send-off, and that doesn't get called. Once he doesn't call that, it's over in regards to him controlling the rest of the game. That was the moment where he had an opportunity. And I, quite frankly, don't think anyone was going to argue it. I think that's the other aspect of this is you try and figure out how bad does it have to be. I don't think you were going to see the Philly radio broadcast was in the booth right next to us, and we were giving them hand signs, and And, sometimes thumbs up, thumbs down, a little fight jokes and whatever. I don't think they were going to argue if Martinez gets thrown out there for the delaying tactics. And so once that happened, it was kind of all over. But they will be physical. They're not going to back down, which I agree is something that maybe this team hadn't had in recent seasons. That's a good eye on that, Jarrett.
Another couple of minutes here with Abe Gordon from 92.9 The Game for his normal Monday visit, where he's the first one. He's the one at the point of the spear on Reaction Mondays. He's the first one in the barn, and it's like, all right, Abe, it's like the Gozer Gozerian scene in the original Ghostbusters. Go get him, Ray. And so that's where we are with Abe as he continues to be hydrated here on Monday. And I think to your point about John Freeman, it was we were doing the numbers and we were crunching his stats coming into the match. Traditionally, John Freeman's fifth in Major League Soccer in fouls called. It was 20, I think it was 24.5 on average. But when it comes to the yellow card distribution, he is in the bottom third of the league. Only, I think it was 3.74 yellows per match. And so in this match, to your point, of his first 6 fouls, John Freeman goes against type and gives 2 yellows out of the blocks. But he did not keep that pacing. And you thought that, okay, he was going to have some kind of control over this match. My thought is that with the number of fouls he called and the number of yellows he administered in the first 45, he was going to have to flip his script to try and even things out in the second half. But as it turned out, it was just one of those where you continue to let things happen. And I know that, and Gonzalo Pineda was like this as well. Gonzalo was not as, if somebody brought up the illegal throw, whatever, I think as you could tell on the sidelines, he was hot about not having the second yellow in the 40th minute on the throwing of the soccer ball from, one half to the other. And the game changes at that point for another 50 minutes if that's called. I mean, you had the all 22 looking at Gonzo, and he's sitting there and he's going, that's his second yellow. That's his second yellow. And you don't get that. And so I think that when Philadelphia sees moments like that, they capitalize on it. They know where the line is now, and they can continue to see where the line is and push it for the remainder of the match.
Yeah, I mean, they came out and tested him early, and they continue to test him. And right, like early on, like you said, he was in control. They had to pull back a little bit as they went for maybe a 10 or 12, 15-minute stretch without too many issues. Then they ramped it back up again and say, all right, he's settled into this game. Let's see if he's gotten lazier. Let's see if he's still on it or not. And like you said, he certainly wasn't, and that was the end of that. I mean, there were some obvious yellow cards. I mean, the hit on Sleesh in the box after he had cleared.
And Martinez goes up and he's wagging his finger at the second he gets up as his way to try and reinforce that no, it wasn't. That's part of the dynamic as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way they're going to do things, and I guess they got to look at themselves in the mirror every morning and find that level of respect for themselves and the way they play. I think it's despicable. I think it's disgusting. But I also don't like diving. Like, I just wish guys would fight to stay up. And if you go down, you go down. But that's unfortunately where the game has progressed. And look, if you can get away with it, if you can win, or in this case, draw on the road using these sorts of tactics. I mean, you look at Philly and what they've done the past couple of years in the Eastern Conference, maybe there is something there. I don't appreciate it. I find it quite pathetic, to be honest, but they are getting results, and you can't argue with that.
All right. So what is, after you continue to stay properly hydrated, what are you up to at 92.9 The Game?
Yeah. I mean, look, we got the NFL draft in 2 weeks or less than really. So we're building towards that. There's no doubt about that, but we are definitely keeping an eye. We got Cincinnati coming in on Saturday. We are back on 92.9 The Game. We were on Star 94 yesterday, but back on 92.9 The Game, and it's another opportunity against a pretty quality side to come into Mercedes-Benz and hold home turf. They were very close to doing so yesterday. We'll see if we can get Giakoumakis back, if not in full, for part of this game, and same thing with some of the guys on the back line. But just feel really good about where Atlanta United is. I mean, it's one of those things we probably make too much of a deal of finishing as the 1 seed or the 2 seed and whatever. Like, just, I don't know, like going into the rest of the season, you just feel really good about where the depth has been. I think even though TRA's banged up, like that's been a revelation that maybe you didn't count on. Same thing with Noah Cobb being able to step up into this moment, and you've started to remove questions about what you have there. I just very optimistic, and there, look, on a week-to-week basis, maybe I'll get more so or less so based on how things are feeling, how things are looking. But over the whole, you still have to feel pretty good about the potential of this Atlanta United team.
One of the co-hosts of Pre and Post on the Atlanta United Radio Network, Abe Gordon, at Abe Gordon on the Twitters, at 929 The Game, which is where his hydration mug is based. He's right there. Where's the branding, Abe? Hit me with the branding.
It's coming up. There you go.
There you go. There's your branding. Man, that sounds like there's a lot of water in there. We will catch up with you, my friend. We'll be listening on Saturday. We'll catch up with you again a week from today, and we'll talk about Atlanta United and FC Cincinnati. Thanks for hanging out as always.
Happy to do it, gang. We'll see you guys at the Benz on Saturday.
There it is. That's Abe Gordon. He's going to continue to be hydrated.